College playoff football will be here sooner than you think. With the start of October, while the weather may start cooling down, the postseason atmosphere heats up. The new 4-team format gives fans plenty to think about in terms of who can make it to the postseason. There's a case for a lot of teams, but there are also a lot of surprises left in the season as well. But here at NoHuddle, we're going to give our 8 teams we believe have the best shot at making the postseason in the 2023-2024 season. Michigan. For the Wolverines, they quickly shot out to a 5-0 record. Junior QB J.J. McCarthy performed incredibly well in those 5 games as he threw for 1,071 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. It looks like he's easily going to break his career mark of 22 that he set just a season ago, but his 3 picks could be a cause for concern. In his sophomore season, McCarthy only threw 5 in 322 attempts. Another bright spot for the Michigan offense is Blake Corum. He's already at 9 touchdowns in 5 games. His previous best of 18 came just a season ago, and at this rate he could set a new mark in his senior season. More notably is Corum's health. He missed time with a knee injury that saw him inactive for the Wolverines' playoff run. This time, if Corum stays healthy, then there is plenty of reason to believe that the Wolverines will make another playoff run. Michigan has not been challenged at all, it seems, as we head further into October. Their smallest margin of victory was 24 points against Rutgers. The biggest regular season test for them will be the middle of November as they face Penn State, Maryland, and Ohio State. Texas lost a close game to the Oklahoma Sooners 34-30 in the Red River rivalry game. The game had a lot of eyes on it as both teams entered the contest at 5-0. To the Longhorns' credit, the deficit was 27-17 near the end of the third quarter, before they tied it at 27-all with 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter. The 2 glaring problems in that game for the Longhorns was the number of tackles for loss Oklahoma collected in the contest, with 15. If the O-line can't do a better job protecting Quinn Ewers and running back Jonathan Brooks, then this could lead to Texas unable to keep up against other stout teams. Also, Texas lost the turnover battle, as 2 interceptions and a fumble from Quinn Ewers did no favors for them. It was an uncharacteristic game for the sophomore QB, but most of the time when a team loses the turnover game, it does not bode well. Overall, the loss put Texas at a crossroads. This can either be the only speed bump in the road to the playoffs, or a huge rut that sets them back and pops the tires. But we at NoHuddle believe this Longhorns team is special enough to make the playoffs. Arguably, Texas has already faced the toughest parts of their schedule, so this should not worry Longhorns fans too much. Ohio State has perhaps the best wide receiver talent in the country with Marvin Harrison Jr. Kyle McCord threw for 6 touchdowns in the first 4 games and posted almost 1,100 yards. Running back Travion Henderson rushed for 5 touchdowns and 295 yards in those games. These seem kind of pedestrian in comparison to other players we discussed with other teams. Harrison Jr., however, has 336 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns. The biggest feather in their cap is the close victory over a Notre Dame team that was ranked 9th in the country. But let's not forget that this was a last-second win, literally as the Buckeyes ran it in with 1 second on the game clock. While the offense does not strike fear into defenses like others, Harrison Jr. is ranked 4th in the Big Ten in receiving yards, despite playing 1 less game than the other 3 receivers ahead of him. The Buckeyes ranked as high as number 4 in the country, but the problem is the Eastern Conference in the Big Ten is filled with 5 high-caliber teams, so it'll be a challenge to get in the playoffs. But we believe if Ohio State plays this great against Penn State and in late November against Michigan, then they have a great chance of making the playoffs. Alabama. The only blemish for the Crimson Tide is the loss against Texas in Tuscaloosa, but they have since righted the ship back on course for playoff football. While Jalen Milroe doesn't have any eye-popping stats as QB, with a little over 800 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions through 5 games, he does have 4 rushing touchdowns. Another positive is the duo of senior running backs Jace McClellan and Roydell Williams, with 326 and 242 yards through 5 games respectively. This does give Alabama an advantage most teams don't have. One could argue that freshman Justice Haynes should be added to the mix more, as he's gone for 51 yards on 8 carries in the 5 games played. We here at NoHuddle recall what Nick Saban said around the time of the SEC Media Day about the offense being too focused on Bryce Young a season ago. that they wanted to play more smash mouth and wear opponents down. Well, in late October and early November, they would really need that kind of play. In a 3-week span, Alabama faces Tennessee, LSU, and Kentucky. All of them present a challenge for Nick Saban and the Tide, but if they come out of those in the win column, then that would surely propel them to the playoffs. Florida State. The Seminoles look like one of the best teams in college football, and arguably the best team in the ACC. Jordan Travis seems to be having a career year, as through 4 games, he's thrown for a little over 1,000 yards with 10 touchdowns and just 1 interception. If this is any indication of how he'll play throughout the year, he looks poised to break his career best of 24 touchdowns that he set just last season. But we can't mention Travis without mentioning one of his best targets in Keon Coleman. This is his first year at FSU after 2 seasons with the Michigan State Spartans. He hauled in 17 targets for 256 yards and 6 touchdowns in the first 4 games. The good news for FSU is that they already beat a tough LSU in the first game, and an OT win against Clemson gives them another great win on the young season. Even better news is the month of October, and the first few games in November are all ACC opponents. If the Seminoles want to claim the ACC title, trampling your opponents these 6 weeks would give them a great opportunity to do so. Georgia. While the Bulldogs needed every bit of superpower Brock Bowers possessed in the game against Auburn to pull off the 27-20 win, this is still Georgia we're talking about. The 2-time national champions have one of the best recruiting classes to fill any voids from those who left in a season ago. The Bulldogs have gotten solid play from Carson Beck as he tries to fill the shoes of Stetson Bennett. Beck has just shy of 1,500 yards in 5 games, 7 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Senior running back Dajan Edwards also has played remarkably well in Georgia's first 5 games, as he's rushed for 260 yards on 51 carries and has had 5 touchdowns in that span. With Georgia looking a little flustered off the close win against Auburn, this could be a pivotal moment in their season. The Dogs can easily make it into the postseason. Washington. The Washington Huskies have propelled themselves into the top 25 in the country, thanks in large part to Michael Penix Jr. The senior QB led all of college football in passing yards with 1,999 in 5 games. He also threw for 16 touchdowns with only 2 interceptions. He's certainly building off his inaugural season with the Huskies after he transferred from Indiana. But it's not just Penix Jr. being a one-man show on the offensive side of the ball, as junior running back Dylan Johnson has 4 touchdowns in the early part of the 2023 campaign. Johnson, who transferred from one dog school to another, as he went from the Mississippi State Bulldogs to now Washington Huskies, has provided a new cog in the machine for one of the top teams in the Pac-12. The real test for the Huskies comes when they get through this stretch from mid-October against Oregon to the end of the season. Obviously, it's a big window, but let us say that all these are conference games, the biggest undoubtedly being Oregon and USC. If the Huskies can secure wins in those games, there's no doubt they'll be the top dog in the Pac-12. Oklahoma. The biggest question we had for the Oklahoma Sooners at NoHuddle was how would they stack up against tougher competition. Entering the Red River rivalry game, the Sooners had not faced a team that was ranked in the top 25. Then they faced a Texas team that was ranked 3rd in the country at the time. All Oklahoma did was record 15 tackles for loss and force 3 turnovers in the game to secure a 34-30 victory over the Longhorns. Now we believe at 6-0, Oklahoma is a legit playoff team. There's still a game in late October against a respectable Kansas Jayhawks team. But with that exception, the Sooners play no one that's currently ranked. Dylan Gabriel's second season with Oklahoma looks to be going better than his previous one did, and that's saying something for sure. Through 6 games, the senior QB has 16 touchdowns to only a pair of interceptions, and he's added 5 TDs on the ground. In the game against Texas, it was only the second time Gabriel failed to record over 300 passing yards, and it was his lowest completion percentage on the campaign with 60.4%, yet the Sooners still won the game. If Oklahoma can play this level of football like they did against Texas, then this will be a team that easily makes the playoff. Obviously, there are plenty of teams that have playoff potential. It's still early enough in the season to shake things up around the college football world, but if you believe we missed any, let us know in the comments. If you love college football content, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Join us here at NoHuddle for more college football content.